Who is this guy? Who is she? Who is this baby? What is Pathfinder's real purpose? And how does it all tie together? I'm going to explain everything about the new Fight Night cinematic, explain all the characters, the connections to the lore, and showcase all of the missed details. I'll also throw in some healthy doses of my own theories too, because at this point there's still a lot of missed information, but when you take all of the lore from the loading screens and everything else, the full picture is almost there. Okay, first thing, this is set on Samathi, the planet that Olympus is on. It's in the city Malta, which we can assume is directly underneath Olympus. We can see advertisements for Olympus and even see Olympus in the sky in one of the scenes. This is also the same city that Pathfinder, Gibraltar, Octane and Lifeline went down to in the quest. We get to meet Victor Maldera. He's a detective from the Malta police force. We first learned of his name in the first lore drop for Caustic back in season 1. He was certain that Caustic was still alive after his lab was set on fire, and his obsession with the case is what got him fired, and that led him to take up a low-end security job. Of course, Victor was right. Caustic caused the fire and escaped with his life. This guy was previously a renowned cop. He helped to crack the case on who killed Loba's parents, and he even got a photo with Forge. But even after losing his job, Victor couldn't let go of the case. So here we are looking at the details, and there it is. 100% proof that Crypto's foster mother, Mystic, is in fact Caustic's real mother. They were both raised by the same woman. That's gonna be an interesting story for the Apex team to tell in the future, that's for sure. What's interesting is that Caustic's mum is nowhere to be seen. It seems she went into hiding too. Perhaps she knows what happened with Caustic and needed to start a new life. So next thing, Pathfinder somehow accidentally kills this guy. He has a Rampart wingman with ricochet rounds. Maybe a potential future hop-up? We had it in Titanfall, so it is possible. By the way, this was set 8 years in the past, which means Rampart would have been 13 at the time. Some would suggest that perhaps Rampart is a family name, and that's why Rampart weapons were around at the time. But the way these voice lines are, they are sort of the way you'd talk to a child, in my opinion.
Lovely Lady Parrick, it's beyond the car. That pistol you modded for me, a thing of beauty.
I really think Rampart was just gifted and started at an early age. Either way, Victor gets to go through Pathfinder's memory logs. Now we'll go through all of these later in the video. There's tons of stuff to talk about during these logs, but for now let's focus on the main scenes and get back to that later. Victor sees Caustic and gets frantic because he finally gets to see the truth he was hunting for so long. But not before this guy comes in and pulls the plug on Pathfinder's memory recording. Who is this guy? Well, let's rewind. The guy Pathfinder killed, he had his phone ringing after he died. A call came from somebody called QW. We later cut to this guy looking at his phone and seeing the camera footage of Pathfinder killing the thug in the bar. I think it's safe to assume this is QW. And who is QW? He's the very man responsible for taking Crypto's life away. The man who set up the hit on Crypto and framed Crypto for making his sister vanish. We still know very little about him, but this loading screen proves it. We can assume he's the leader of a mob running on both Samathi and Gaia, because that's where the attack happened on Crypto. This is super interesting to find out. Pathfinder has literally met the man that ruined Crypto's life and forced him into hiding. Once again, this is definitely a big story that will unravel over time. During the flight scene, QW says this.
You don't know what that Marmony is, Maldera. Just hand it over, and Nox is yours.
And this gets me interested. QW is obviously tied to the Syndicate somehow because he understands Pathfinder's importance. QW was involved with trying to deal with Crypto, which we know was an event that was tied to the Syndicate. And we also know that Blisk is tied to the Syndicate. Blisk also knows about Ash and Horizon and what happened with the Branthium, because in the Season 6 quest he says an old friend of Ash's has returned, referring to Horizon leaving the event Horizon. So this means we know the Syndicate is in part responsible for trying to stop Horizon from solving the Outland's energy crisis, because Ash was tasked with stealing Horizon's Branthium and leaving her in a black hole. Likewise, it seems like QW has been tasked to hunt down Pathfinder. I don't think QW is just hunting down Pathfinder because Path killed one of his thugs. It's deeper than that. Pathfinder has the truth to solve the Outland's energy crisis, and QW, among the rest of the Syndicate, are trying their hardest to stop it. So what does Pathfinder know? Well, unfortunately that memory log is lost. Pathfinder does have a memory log of this woman who tells Pathfinder that his existence is proof that the Outlands can survive, but we don't really know what that means. It seems to be tied to the Phase Runner. We know this is like a much larger version of Wraith's phase technology. It can be used to travel huge distances across space, but not just space. This loading screen makes it very clear the phase runner can be used to travel to alternate dimensions. This suggests that the mass of an object affects its trajectory even within the alternate plane. Additional research into this phenomenon will be required. This loading screen is talking about the phase runner. My theory, the scientists knew that they could create a phase tunnel that could pull energy or some kind of resources needed for energy from alternate dimensions. It would solve their energy crisis. They needed branthium to power it perhaps, but the smart minds in Olympus working on the technology could never fully research it. The brightest minds were killed or lost in black holes, their technology was stolen. The Syndicate perhaps tried to use the technology themselves without fully researching it, and some kind of catastrophe happened which caused the rift to appear, and unfortunately all research into it was ended. The Syndicate do not want the inhabitants of the Outlands to have free flowing energy. They want to control it. The reason the Outlands has an energy crisis is because it's a group of planets really far away from the rest of space, right? The Frontier are a group of planets and star systems in the outer reaches of space, and the Outlands are in the outer reaches of space. To keep this in mind, when Lobus said that she threw Revenant source code halfway to Gridiron, I'm pretty sure this is just a saying, because halfway to Gridiron is really far. The Gridiron is in the Frontier. It's so far away, it would take decades to get there using current space technology. And obviously they don't have the energy available to get there fast. That means that they do have an energy crisis on their hands. If energy is the core to life in the Outlands, being in control of that core would give you all of the power. It's almost like those conspiracies you hear about how some smart mind creates a really powerful alternative to fossil fuel, like a car that can run on water, and then they mysteriously disappear. The scientists at Olympus had almost cracked the code to metaphorically having the Outlands run on water, and the Syndicate couldn't let that happen. But then there's Pathfinder. Somehow Pathfinder was their last hope. Perhaps Pathfinder was made to travel into other dimensions. Perhaps he is made specifically for these inhospitable planes. We don't know exactly, but he is the Outland's last hope at solving the energy crisis. Pathfinder just hasn't quite realized what it is he was exactly made for yet. There's still so much story left to unearth. The Apex writing team clearly had a vision for the story right from the beginning, but we'll have to wait to see how many more details reveal themselves. So with that out of the way, let's go back to the memory logs. Ever since Pathfinder woke up, he has spent his whole time taking up jobs trying to find details of his creator. This has led him to see many things that are all tied back to the story in some way. The memory logs go backwards chronologically at first with the year timestamped at the bottom. For reference, the year currently when we're playing in game is 2733. The first two scenes don't really have much significance, but then of course we get to see the first scene. Path was actually working at the lab when Caustic burned it down. This scene was just an Easter egg for Titanfall fans, and the date was actually wrong. So if you're super into the lore, this explanation from one of the writers really helps to clear things up. As we learned in the loading screens in Season 3, Pathfinder worked in the same restaurant that Revenant killed Lobus' parents in, so it's no surprise to see a memory log of him spotting Revenant in the year 2708. The next scene is in 2722, just 11 years before the present day. Pathfinder is trying to defuse a bomb. It's hard to pinpoint what exactly this could be tied to. It may even be a reference to something that hasn't happened yet. It couldn't have been the world's edge explosion because that was decades ago according to this loading screen. I'm not sure what it could be, so unless any lorehounds have any clues to what happened 11 years ago in the lore, I'm clueless on this one for now. Maybe a tease for something to come in the future. After this, the memory logs sort of flash back and forth as Victor is trying to find the Caustic memory log again. We get the baby scene at 2683, and this one is puzzling. There are so many theories about who this baby could be, but it doesn't really match up. Bear in mind this is 50 years ago from the present day, so it can't be Watson, Mirage, or any of the younger legends. They are all in their 20s to 30s. It can't be Revenant as a human, he has been a simulacrum for over 300 years. It can't be Horizon, she was born 124 years ago thanks to the time dilation whilst in the event Horizon. It can't be Horizon's son, because Horizon first entered the event Horizon in 2646, which would make Horizon's son in his 40s to 50s at the time. It can't be Caustic because he is 48, so he was born in 2685. So it isn't really tied to any legends at the time. I did make a theory that it could have been Blisk. The age could match up. However, some people were quick to point out that Blisk was born in the core world. That's not even in the Frontier. That's like in our galaxy as we know today. It's the frontiers, the outer edges of space, and the Outlands is the outer edges of space. There's no way this could be Blisk, considering Pathfinder was in the Outlands at the time. Honestly, I think it's just either a random baby, or perhaps we'll learn more about this in the future. The other theory is that this baby is actually a teaser for an upcoming character, but once again, they'd have to be 50. One final thing to touch on, this character is called Emily P. Could it be related to Watson? She has the same accent, potential same last name, and the writer teased Watson Law was coming in the book. Well, I think it is very likely. It can't be her mother because this scene was taken in 2658, and it looked as if she died after this footage, but it could be her grandmother. Finally, here's the Nessie mentioned in the cinematic. So that's it, all missed details and everything about the story fully explained. Before we go, there's a couple quick obvious things to cover. Pathfinder meets Victor and it's sort of his first friend, so he sees the boxing gloves and that's how it becomes his heirloom. We don't know exactly how the grapple gun ends up becoming a part of his kit. I don't know if we'll find out in the future, but it's sort of like an origin story of his abilities too. What do you think about all this lore? Is it overwhelming? Let me know, did you understand? It is kind of all over the place, there's so much to understand. The best thing I could say is to go read some of the loading screens to understand the lore, and you can see all of the stuff kind of piecing it together slowly. Alright everyone, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio!